All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I have a very interesting video to present to you guys because this movie, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, is the current film that all the wokies on Twitter are trying to make you feel guilty for not seeing. And yet we constantly talk about the fact that likes and retweets on Twitter is the new currency for a lot of these wokies. They won't actually go watch the film. They won't actually go support with their dollar what they say they want to support, right? They'll speak publicly online and they'll retweet everything that has to do with DEI, and yet they're not the first ones to line up most of the time when it comes to spending their money. Now, we have an article here from That Park Place with a headline that reads, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, reportedly saw 80% decline in female audience compared to Mad Max Fury Road. Now, this one here is important because all I saw on Twitter when Furiosa, a Mad Max saga came out was a bunch of woke women on Twitter complaining to everybody that would possibly listen to them that nobody's watching this movie and you should feel bad about it. You should feel bad about watching it, that this is going to prove that people don't want to go support women in the theater in terms of being a lead role, all these narratives. And yet it's women that saw the biggest decline compared to the initial Mad Max film. That's the funniest thing about all of this. So let's get into this article, guys, from That Park Place. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. It says director George Miller's Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, reportedly saw a massive 80% decline in female moviegoers compared to Mad Max Fury Road. As reported by Andrew Japados at The Blaze, Mad Max Fury Road saw women make up 40% of moviegoers for the film. That declined to 29% for Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Similarly, young adults between the ages of 18 to 24 made up 31% of Mad Max Fury Road audience. In comparison, it only made up 21% of the audience for Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. So the hilarious thing is that the two demographics that are ultra woke online, and they're the ones talking about how you have to support female lead roles, how you have to support DEI, how you have to support all this nonsense that we constantly talk about. And yet when it comes to a film being made essentially, you know, in theory specifically for them, they're nowhere to be found. They're dropping off by massive amounts. And for what reason? There's no reason other than the fact that you just didn't go and watch it. That's what it is. You clearly went to go watch the first one. Now you're not watching the second one that happens to have the lead role that you say you were interested in the first place. And we've seen this happen so many times. Now, the funny thing is, there are certain things that women will absolutely support. The WNBA, that's not one of them. Women-led female movies that happen to have action in it, that's not one of them. What they'll end up supporting is Barbie. You get what I'm saying? Like the prototypical female thing, that's what they're going to go end up supporting. But the thing that everybody tries to say, oh, well, women can do this too. Women can do action films. Women can do blah, blah, all that stuff. They're not going out and watching these films. They're only watching the prototypical female-oriented things like Barbie, right? So I just find it to be kind of hilarious and ironic that the numbers support the argument that we've been talking about since the beginning. It says not only is the makeup of the audience drastically different between Mad Max Fury Road and Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, but it's quite likely that Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, also saw far fewer women and young adults heading to the theater. According to the numbers, Mad Max Fury Road sold 18,174,895 tickets in North America after it arrived in theaters in 2015. 40% of that would be 7,269,958 tickets. 31% of that would be 5,634,217 tickets. In contrast, the numbers report that Furiosa has only sold 4,984,550 tickets. That means that only 1 million women purchased tickets for Furiosa. It also means that only 1 million people between the ages of 18 and 24 bought tickets for Furiosa. That is insane. That is a massive drop off. And yet, listen, I'm telling you right now, you would have a lot more of them on Twitter going nuts, talking about it, than actually showing up to the theaters. And at the end of the day, money talks, ladies and gentlemen. That's what these wokies don't understand. Most of them are unemployed because they're too busy being fake activists and going to protest, LARPing as some sort of like ultra activists that they're really not. At the end of the day, most of them don't have jobs. And if they do have jobs, they're probably not high paying jobs. There's very few that I've ever seen that are wokies with high paying jobs. But that's besides the point. They don't understand that money is what makes these things continue to happen. Money makes the world go round when it comes to entertainment, especially. So if you're out there suddenly trying to virtue signal for this stuff, if you're not voting with your wallet, if you're not going out there and supporting with your dollar, this is probably not going to happen very often. And then you're going to be online complaining about it. But I think ultimately what it really is that they like that the narrative is in their favor. They like the fact that they can say, well, this movie is not doing well because it has a female lead and you guys aren't supporting it. You know what I mean? And they automatically expect you to pick up the slack for their lack of dollar. Well, no, unfortunately for you, that's not how this works. If a movie is virtue signaled to a niche audience, then the movie is going to get niche results. You cannot then expect the mass majority of people to make up for your lack of money. That's not how this works. It's kind of like the WNBA argument we make all the time, right? WNBA, women complain all the time about how they're not paid as much as the male stars, but they don't make nowhere near the amount of money. The WNBA since inception has not made money ever. It's always been subsidized by the much more profitable, much more entertaining, and much better to overall business strategy, the NBA. So WNBA would not exist without the NBA. So they should be happy they're even getting any sort of money, because if this was a regular business on its own without subsidization, guess what? WNBA would have been gone 15 years ago. But good for them that they have men that are willing to pick up the slack for them and still get paid for being subpar. I mean, that's really what it is. Then it says, based on this data, over 5.8 million women attended Mad Max Fury Road compared to Furiosa. That's an 80% decline. As for adults, the overall decline is 4.5 million people. That's over 81% decline. For a point of comparison, the overall decline in total ticket sales so far is just over 72%. Look at it another way. Over 2.2 million more women showed up to Mad Max Fury Road in 2015 than the total number of tickets sold for Furiosa. Over 649,000 people aged between 18 and 24 showed up for Fury Road than the total number of people for Furiosa. I mean, at the end of the day, man, Furiosa is one of those films, whether it's good or not, that's not the discussion, okay? The point of discussion is that this film is being utilized by certain groups of people, in this case, leftist activists, that are trying to preach this film as the most amazing thing for female representation they've seen in the last 5 years, aside from Barbie. But at the end of the day, with all of this praise, Barbie was ultra successful. This film is not. Why is that? Well, quite frankly, because Barbie is actually for women. Furiosa is for women who are pretending to be men. That's the difference. So you're going to lose a lot of the actual real women that probably would have went to go see this film if this wasn't the message that was being presented. But ultimately, that's what it is, and women just don't want to support it. Women have proven that they will support something if it virtue signals to them in a brand and grand way, but this is not one of them. Furiosa is not one of them. It's an action movie at the end of the day, and it's going to really virtue signal to men more so than women. That's just how it goes. And unfortunately, with a female lead that seemingly everybody thinks is a DEI lead, whether that's true or not, I don't really care. The point is the message and the look and the view of the film just screams modern day DEI replacement of female over male, and that's going to leave a lot of men not wanting to see it as well. So when, again, the final comparison, or the final thing I have to say is quite simply this: if you make a movie for everybody, nobody's going to want to see it. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.